Welcome, everybody, to Bring Food Live on Air. We are live on air. I hope, cross my fingers, because we are wrestling with the tech once again. You know what? I've been doing Crowdcast now for like 5 years. And I got to be honest, I'm not sure whether the stability of platform is improving or not. Anyway, I hope everyone can hear me here on Crowdcast. I'm bringing it to you, of course, every Friday. And we're going to be basically doing Wednesday, Friday, kind of on and off. Friday always, Wednesday intermittently. And today, usual programming. We've got a fantastic show ahead. One of the things I would say is super important for us in TA to understand is how is it that we generally have not been able to accelerate the adoption of artificial intelligence into our operations. I've got a theory on it. I'm kind of committed to the theory. I want to try and push the theory out to you guys. You tell me whether I'm nuts on this, but I do want to say we need recruitment or talent operations function to specifically do this. In other words, my premise on all of this is that if you have a bunch of 360 recruiters in your team, and no one dedicated to looking at workflow, implementation, enablement of other recruiters, I think you're going to be very slow in adopting AI. And I think you're going to just be waiting for a vendor to deliver it to you. So that's my grand theory on it. I've wrestled with AI myself. I need an enablement person to do it. A simple case is, I think if you're busy doing a job, like delivering against headcount, you're not going to have the time or bandwidth to ever do a process shift. That's the theory. Let me know what you think on that. Anyway, folks, let's do a quick sound check on Crowdcast. Let me know whether you can hear and see me okay if you're watching it on there. I do understand that the restream may not be working, but let me just check whether I'm live on LinkedIn, because that will tell me whether it's working or not. Let me just quickly check. I am live on LinkedIn. That's amazing. So, Rob, I don't know what's going on there, but I suspect it might be a local issue. But, folks, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, do let me know whether you can hear and see me okay. Just drop me a comment in the thread there, and we'll see where we go. Okay, good stuff. It looks like everyone can hear and see me okay, which is fantastic. And we see everyone on the panel that's arrived here as well. Fantastic stuff. Okay, we're going to try and get Gita back on the show. Gita, you are the co-host, so I kind of need you. But let's see whether we can do it. Invited you. Let's see if we can get on a desktop or mobile. Give it a shot, my dear, and we'll see where we're at. Okay, cool. Folks, as we're getting on with this, do bear in mind we have a poll on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're watching this on Crowdcast, I want you to navigate over to that right-hand side screen and give it a vote. The question is, Recops, do you have this function in your TA team? Yes or no? If yes, say yes. If no, say no. But there's two no's: no but planning to, and no plans to. Ping your votes in and let me know what you think. Okay, Geeta, you're back, looking wonderful. Look at all the color scheme here. Very, very nice.
I know, the flowers.
Fantastic. I take it you're on your mobile, Geeta. Is that right?
Yes. For some reason, it doesn't seem to work on my laptop.
It's crazy talk. Here's a quick shout out to Crowdcast customer support. Basically, the mobile link works. I think it's even on a browser. It doesn't even have to be on a download. But the web app is all over the place. Please fix. Okay. Anyway, Geeta, great to see you. For people who don't know you, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
I head up the talent acquisition team at LoadSmart. We are a logistics tech company based out of the US. We're not sexy, but we are definitely helping with the pain points of supply chain in the US and globally.
Nothing wrong with supply chain. I think it is very sexy these days. It is moving stuff around the world. This is what we all need, folks. So fantastic stuff. Okay, Geeta, why don't we? Well, did you read the newsletter from last week? And if so, let's have a look at it. I guess. What was interesting?
I mean, for me, I think some of the key things that stood out, the concept of keep what you kill, right? If AI gives you back all this time, keep what you kill. I'm all for it. But the question is, do you think, and this is for the audience as well, will our leaders be up for it? Will our CEOs be up for it? Are they going to say, yeah, we've saved you time by investing in AI? And here's something extra for you. Will they let us have that time? So that was one thing. Domain knowledge. This is crazy. So if we think about going back to how we hire, looking at competency, skill-based hiring, um, we pushed that at our company and it was great. We were like, all right, this is what we're doing. But what's really crazy is it's great to see and significant that we are going back to, hey, knowledge. We need that knowledge in our companies more than we need the skills. And we're back to the point where we were, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, where we were very much looking at the knowledge and experience of people. And I think one of the pieces in your article, maybe it wasn't last week, the week before, was really interesting in the sense that how are you going to test for it? How's that evidence, or how are we going to gain that evidence that we need? So those were some of the things that came up. And obviously,
Before
the
you skew
topic.
on that, Gita, let me just touch on some of those points. I think that um, yeah, the skills based hiring show, we should do a breakthrough live on that, because
Yeah.
I think it's kind of had its moment. It was like everyone a big deal. Everyone was like on board with the idea, but does AI kind of render skills based hiring kind of redundant? Because what are you even hiring skills for? Because if AI can actually perform that skill or perform the task that that skill previously required, then the value of that skill goes down. Case in point, in recruiting, previously, I would say Boolean search was a skill. You know, your ability to go and find candidates using Boolean search was a highly developed, highly valued skill. About 2 years ago, super high value. AI can now do that. So are you still hiring for Boolean? Does it make sense to do that? Or do you instead start hiring for the traits which make a good Boolean sourcer? So in other words, someone with an investigative mindset, someone with
Mhm.
the ability to think around a problem. Those things, I disagree. Boolean search is absolute dementia a skill, Stevo. Let's be accurate here. Let's be accurate. Skill is proximity to task and is measurable and can be learned. That is what a skill is. A trait, I think we avoid traits because we're frightened about the concept of it being innate. A little bit frightened about, oh, hang on, do we need to be starting to, look at traits-based hiring? But I do think that we've always been doing that. We've just bottled it by labeling it skills-based hiring. Anyway, we could do that show. Steve Levy, you are now announced as a future guest on that show. So you can come on and growl at me there. All right, brilliant. Give us another thing that you want to talk about, Gita.
So it's really crazy because obviously what we're talking about today is basically this transition that the in-office recruiter is having to this more Recops or this ops role, which I mean, it takes me back to the days of the analytics, people analytics, when that came about. We were like, oh yeah, we're going to have an analytics person within this role. And so it's interesting that you're seeing that, because now it's how do you pull AI into our whole function? But then the question bodes, and we're seeing this as well, is AI, are we using AI effectively? Where are we using it? And who are the people that are going to take on this role, right? Are we going to have to go out and find like those type of people that are more engineering systems folks rather than our regular recruiters? Do the regular recruiters want to even transition to a role like this? So I think there's a lot of questions that come up with this. And then again, some of these roles end up becoming obsolete. So are we going to end up getting a technology that essentially takes over this role if we do bring this role out? So there's a lot of questions around that.
That's a very good point. Like, is RecOps itself future proofed?
Yeah.
Because you know what, RecOps. I mean, we'll bring the guys on to talk about this, but RecOps emerged from the concept of DevOps. Really, it's coming from
Yeah.
software, and DevOps is all about, okay, we need to make sure our deployment is right. We need to make sure all the environments are correct, all the testing is there. Let's not push anything that breaks. We don't want developers to do this because they're overly committed to, typing the code effectively. So you need another special type of developer to configure the environment as basically developer enablement. But can't an AI agent do that in some way? So, I mean,
Yeah, good point. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think we have some special guests coming on that can maybe give us some input around this, right?
I hope so. I hope so. We've got loads of people in the crowd that are Recops people. I see Chloe here as well. Chloe, I might bring you on as well. So make sure you're around, and we'll talk about it. But here's my thesis: why you need Recops to accelerate AI in TA. That's my basic premise. Please argue with me on this, but please, have a think about whether this may be the case. But let's bring our guests on. We've got Jeremy here. We should have Will. Let me see whether Will's here. I hope he is. Hang on. We have Tristram as well. Let's make sure Tristram's here. God damn. Wrestling with the tool. Wrestling with the tooling.
Yay, Jeremy.
At least something. I'll give you that.
Jeremy, bright and early. Good to see you, sir. I know it's like ridiculously early there in California. So thank you so much for getting up. I would not do it for me, so I really appreciate it, man. Jeremy, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Jeremy Lyons. I am co-founder of Recops Collective, where I talk about Recops, and I do Recops work for companies.
Amazing. Great stuff. And by the way, make sure you join his community if you are in the space. Please link it below if you haven't already done so, Jeremy. We have Will here as well. Will Ducey. Great to see you, Will. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself, sir? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yeah, Will Ducey. I help companies hire better, mainly through recruiting operations right now. Started my career in agency recruiting, moved in-house, built recruiting and sourcing teams, and then found my way into operations about 5 years ago. I've been working remotely for 10 years. Love it.
And Will actually publishes some really banging posts as well. You're an infrequent but high quality blogger, Will. So I do recommend people follow his stuff. Excellent work. And you work right now at Ashby, don't you? So you're kind of in with that sort of work as a recruitment ops person for a technology company that is, of course, providing technology solutions to the recruitment world. So I guess you can see it in like multiple different angles. So I'd love to explore that with you as well. And we have Tristan here as well. Tristan, great to see you. Haven't caught up since Berlin a couple of months or so ago, but wonderful to see you. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself, Tristan? Who are you? What it is you do?
Thanks. Hey, I'm Tristan, VP of People and Talent at All Media in Berlin. I've spent the last decade in recruiting, and I've really found I'm best in the messy bit, working at a hypergrowth and building the plane while flying it. I actually started my career as a secondary school teacher, so chaos, coaching, herding cats, all the perfect ingredients for where I am right now.
Brilliant. I wonder whether a school teacher might actually be the like a brilliant launching pad for a career in rec ops, because does herding cats, is that resonant to people that work in rec ops? Is part of the job, for instance, to try and coordinate other people in the recruitment team? Is that part of the role? I mean, let's start with that. What's your relationship, I guess, with quote unquote normal recruiters? To go with you firstly, Jeremy, on that.
Well, I was going to say, I also started out as a teacher straight out of college, too. I taught English and Western culture in Japan for 3 years. But I think core and fundamental to what recruiting operations people do, it's not just being able to do the work. You have to go out and you have to teach people why, and you have to give people the context as to why what they're doing or how they've been doing it. Might be right, might be wrong. How do we scale it? And so, yeah, no, it's very, the skills that you get from herding all the cats and playing with all the 6-7 terminology pieces is very apropos to what we do and how we have to design. Because the other thing too is everybody learns differently. You can't just show up with a playbook and say, "Hey, everybody, go and read this." That's not how everybody learns. You have to design the trainings to have people who are like me, show me the system, let me break everything, and then come back to you and say, this is how I did it, why it broke, and why did it break that way. And sometimes it's as simple as, well, the company designed the button to have the delete next to the OK, and sometimes you have to click save, and sometimes you don't have to click save, and this is where you have to do that and not. It's a very apropos.
Do you know what? You've just introduced the thought here that I want to explore, and it may be premature to introduce this point now, but let's roll with it. When does a recruitment operations role get created? Is it typically after TA teams have already been built? So you're coming in to change other stuff that people have already set up on their own? Or is it a case where actually it's the first role in and you build it out sort of, and then you recruit the recruiters? How does it, is there a conventional way in which the role actually emerges? Will, have you got any thoughts on this? Like, in the companies you've worked for, like, did you arrive as a Recops person who's already TA team there, or was there a TA team? Were you a Recops, then you built the TA team? How did it work?
Yes, I've been basically the first Recops person in at 3 different companies. Everything was broken. I say it's the -1, and then the first year is getting to 0 so that you can build all the fun stuff after. But yeah, you have to do a lot of cleanup generally if you're in much after the recruiting processes are set up, there's a team in place. And so, yes, I think we're going to move into a future where Recops is one of the first hires made within an organization. So you're not getting that hiring debt that is so relevant and persistent throughout organizations.
Yeah, so maybe it's like an evolving thing. Best case, maybe start with Recops and then the TA folks. But as it happens, most people probably will arrive at an existing team, and there we already understand what some of the challenge might be, because you've got to try and improve people's process, and they may be very good people, and they may be quite annoyed by this new person coming in telling me my job, right? So, Tristan, I mean, what's your experience with that journey, I guess, of encountering other recruiters that then you have to coach through?
Yeah, 100%. Cool, thank you. I think we're in on that. I think we're kind of in the era of specialist generalists. So you bring in a recruitment team, which is really great at what they do, but they're also okay or good at being able to do these other things as well. So setting up those recruiting operations. And then it gets to that kind of critical point where you're needing someone as a specialist for the recruiting operations to bring in. And so that's something we recently did. So my thinking is everyone should be able to do it. And then there's an inflection point where at one point, for us, it was when we hit 100 employees internally. We were like, okay, we need someone dedicated to this now. And they've come in and they've kind of done the dog meme with this is fine while everything's burning around them, and went, okay, let's fix all this excited building out that you've done and actually make really clear kind of really clear links between all the various vendors and software that we have.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. Yeah.
I do want to say that one of the biggest things, right, Tristan, and this is for all of you, if we think about how an organization is built, if you're in a startup, there's no way they're going to let us hire a RecOps person first, right? It's going to be like, all right, hire a whole bunch of recruiters, and then we'll maybe hire someone that can put a process together. How do you then, if you can't do it internally, how do you go externally? And then what stops like a leader from saying, okay, well, this external function is working, we'll just get them to build it, and then that's it, right? How do you explain to them, actually, we need to continuously do this as we grow, as we scale?
I can jump in and answer that too, because that's actually been a lot of my personal experience with places. So I think usually within RecOps people, a lot of times, especially at the beginning, companies, the founders like to be deeply involved in all of the hiring anyway. So really what you can come in as that zero RecOps person is say, look, I'm not here to try and tell you anything, like stop you from recruiting. I'm not here to do anything. But what I am trying to do is help you make what you're doing repeatable so that you're reducing your cognitive load so you can continue to focus on the business. Now, and this is something we've seen an evolution of, the technology has significantly changed. So we can come in at different varying stages depending on your hiring culture and say, okay, I've built everything you're going to need, copy the role in the ATS, do this thing for the process. Here's a GPT. Here's all these things that are going to give you what you need. And then when you start getting a little bit higher, you can bring those people back in. It's a model that works, but sustainably over time, you do need somebody there that can basically continue to help people. Now, if you're continuing to be a company where you're hiring manager driven on your recruiting processes, and that continues to work, it works up. I think more important to your question is, how does RecOps help you define your hiring culture and what are we doing to help you define the system that you are going to use to hire within your company that's going to give your company the identity that it needs. And from there, then you can sort of start stacking things on top of that. And I think the model used to be very clear of, let's hire somebody who can recruit and recruit and recruit and recruit. And recruiting operations folks can do the recruiting, but it's usually not the thing that has called us in the TA space. So if you can build the system and you can build that hiring culture, then when you come in, things are less on fire. And it's just a break from the old model of hey, let's hire a recruiter first. And then the other thing too is a lot of if you're especially a Y Combinator or if you're a VC backed startup, a lot of those teams have recruiting operations teams that they will just loan out to their portfolio companies to get everything set up. So it's been there for a bit, and it's certainly been changing.
Yeah, really good, Jeremy. And I just want to point out, Guillaume Alexander Gracie, Guillaume, his sort of description of Recops in a kitchen sense. So recruiters are the cooks, folks. They're the kind of the workhorses of the system. Sources, they're bringing in the ingredients. I hope you don't mind maybe your food prep. That's what I was doing, man. And then Recops sharpens the knives. Maybe they do the hygiene. Maybe they make sure the health and safety is there. Maybe they monitor the temperature of the refrigeration and all this type of stuff, right? So they do all of this, but they don't, and they're not on the fry station. They're not cooking the food.
Well, I think the other way you could also think about it this way is Recops is back of the house, recruiters are front of the house. You don't oftentimes hear about recruiting operations breaks until like we're kind of like the clandestine organizations of government. Like you don't hear about us or shouldn't hear about us unless something goes miraculously wrong or miraculously really goes horribly like south. But what we're there to do is help the recruiting teams. And we want our recruiters to be seen. We want our recruiters to not be stuck with the admin, to not be stuck with all of those things. So we want them front of house. It's probably much more we're cooking off in the kitchen, and you have the recruiters who are more engaging with the customers in the store.
Yeah, very good. How do you guys resist being pulled into the front? Like, does that happen? Like, is there a scenario where, oh my goodness, surge of requirements, we're overloaded. Okay, Jeremy, I need you to just get on the database and start calling candidates. I mean, what do you do there? Do you do it? I mean, like, does that actually happen? I mean, is that something that occurs or not? Tristan, you're shaking your head. It doesn't happen. Can you explain why you're saying it doesn't occur as a scenario?
I think if you have really clearly defined roles and of what you do and you don't do, then it really shouldn't. Like that's not the skill set. That's not why somebody's been hired for this position. And I think as soon as you start to allow that dam to be broken, then you're not going back. So I would keep that structure in place.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on, Hung.
It wasn't me. It was Will. Go ahead.
Sorry, go on, Will.
I think there is some element of benefit for the Recops team to actually live and breathe within a role. So if that's a possibility and you have bandwidth, it's interesting because if you're designing these systems and now you have to go recruit a role, you'll find things that are broken and frustrated with that recruiting teams may not surface to you. So I always love joining sourcing parties or whatever it is, like do whatever you can to get closer to the recruiters day to day. Makes you a stronger Recops person.
That's a really good. So go ahead, Gita.
No, I mean, I was going to sort of on the tail end of that, right? The Recops people, right? If I'm sort of as a leader, if I try and justify who I want to bring in on my team, right? I have to justify this head count and in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to disperse the amount of work that's done. Could there be a world where this Recop person almost becomes like that TA analytics person as well? Like, is there synergy in that world whereby we've had people analytics roles and now we have this Recops, and justifying that to my CFO is going to be, no, you don't need people back of house, you need a front of house. But is that synergy where, hey, this person will do both these things? Yeah, Tristan?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the size of a business and what you're doing. Like if I look at our, the team that we have here, I think we've got about 10 people in talent acquisition. And then for our Recops or TA ops, we use it interchangeably. We can come to that point later. They're also working on people ops as well, right? So So they're building out salary data sheets and building out these kind of lovable tools that all employees can use. And so we're making a real case for, this person is doing everything to do with data and integration and connecting systems, whilst also actually building kind of public facing or candidate facing tools like a gift card creation tool, where, after a candidate has finished their interview cycle, they click on this link and they receive a gift card from us for their time.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting about this distribution of work, and I think what I've seen here from both the people commenting and also actually largely in support of Will's position here, that certain RecOps people seem to carry some recs, but perhaps like the main purpose of that may not actually be to fill the recs. I'm not saying you're not seriously recruiting for it, but it's to keep in touch with how to recruit those roles. Because that's a moving beast. You can't be sort of so abstracted from the process such that you're making recommendations and changes that are no longer suitable for the function. So that kind of makes sense, but it's not the same as being dragged in by a leader that perhaps doesn't respect the distinction. Because I think that was my initial thoughts, was there may be someone that doesn't really get it. Sees you working on a project on the side, like, why is this guy not on the phones, and then putting the pressure on and say, look, we really want you to do this. And it's like, no, boss, that's not how I do it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, and I was going to say this. I mean, I think what you're talking about, Hung, also shows up in the interview process for recruiting operations people a lot more than it does. I think when you're recruiting for a recruiter, the conversations that you have in talking recruiter are very different than the conversations you have when you're talking about recruiting operations. And a lot of time, and maybe I'm just thinking about this because I'm a little bit of a new dad, is when you go in for your recruiting operations interview, there are so many other things that everybody wants for you to do that you're kind of sort of sitting there going, you're crying. Are you hungry? Are you wet? Are you like, do I need to change you? Do I need to do what do I need to do? And so the interview itself becomes a little bit more of a let me sort of try to find and diagnose your pain point and let me speak to that, because nobody immediately comes out to you and says well, our ATS is broken. Oh, this is stuff. And if they do come out to you and they say the ATS is broken, the questions that you're asking are, well, is the ATS broken because people don't know how to use it right? Is it actually the tool itself? What is the actual root cause of this issue? And I mean, for my business, there's a lot of time people call me in and they're like, we got this thing. We know it's the best thing in market. We haven't been using it right. How do we do that? How do we make it better? And so I think that, to your point, that's something else that rolls in, because RecOps people then also have to justify. It's like, well, but you're not a recruiter. So what is your value to me? And it's like, my value to you is I'm going to 3, 4, 5, 10x your recruiters so that they can do all the things that you need them to do more efficiently and better. And that can be a little fuzzy to some people who are newer, and we are a newer function for being in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, very good. We need to move on to this premise in a moment, which is, we need a RecOps function to accelerate AI adoption. But before we get there, I want one more question for everyone on the panel to chew over. How do we measure the success of the RecOps function? Is it actually contingent, for instance, on the recruiter's capacity? So it's almost like a second order effect. You're looking at, okay, before I arrived, recruiters were delivering these amount of candidates for these amount of roles in this amount of time and this amount of conversion rate. And after I've arrived, it looks like this. I mean, is it that way of how you measure a RecOps person? Anyone?
How do you measure the value of a RecOps person?
We'll talk to this.
So much fun. I always think recruiting is an extension of the business. So I always look at the business health. If we're not hitting our business goals, then we're clearly not bringing in the right people, or maybe it's product market fit. So I always like getting even beyond recruiting and seeing how we can celebrate the business success through recruiting. So that's number one. I am a big believer in surveys, net promoter scores. I love talking to candidates, hiring managers, and recruiters. The recruiter surveys I send out quarterly are one of my favorite wins. And just getting qualitative feedback, understanding how they think about our process, and trying to give them more time back. And I think we're going to spin into this a little bit on the AI side. And I've had this conversation with a couple of recruiters. We're minimizing the manual tasks, those administrative tasks, but I don't know what our capacity is as a recruiting and sourcing team to be able to say we had 8-hour days, 10-hour days, and we reduced 4 hours of admin work. So now we're just expected to take on significant mental load with those additional 4 hours we just saved. And so making sure that we're not burning out, making sure that our recruiters are promoted, happy and successful, that obviously translates well into candidate experience, hiring manager experience. So I think there's this huge holistic picture we need to look at, and we can't just look at, is our pass-through rate better? Because you can burn a team out pretty quickly by just focusing on some of those normal metrics.
I love that, Will. And I love this angle of kind of maintaining like recruiter health, because without a healthy and motivated team, all of the downstream sort of stuff is going to be bad. Candidate experience bad, sourcing bad, everything's bad if the people are not happy. So Recops has a function of maintaining that mental health. So you've got to think about how people are doing. It didn't occur to me, because I was thinking, okay, it's all operations, as I say, and maybe that just ends up grinding people to dust, right? If you can just be like almost an arm of the dictator, sort of say, and just putting the grist to the mill. No, you've got to keep everyone happy and fitted to this. Okay, very good. Tristan, you were nodding your head a little bit on this. You've got this role where that is your function, isn't it? A measurement of Recops performance. How have you done it in your business?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's difficult to quantify, but what the signals that you can see are the workflows that are being built out by Recops are being used daily, right? And then recruiters or talent acquisition will stop spending their life chasing these kind of manual tools. So, I mean, one thing that we built out here is a mission outcome competency maker, which hiring managers can use. And this is what Recops built out. So it's all AI, LLM, hosted on Lovable. And instead of having this 2-hour session with a hiring manager to kick off a role, and we've got like close to 100 positions to fill this year, which is a lot of time, they can use this tool first to come to that kickoff call with this in mind, which saves hours and hours, right? And then times that by so many roles. On top of that, also noticing all these Slack channels, right, for all these different positions. And constantly there would be this request of, what's the pipeline looking like in this role? How many interviews have happened? And so Recops, we created this Slack bot tool, which would link with Ashby and automatically spit that out every week, just giving an update of pipelines. So these things are taking away all these kind of manual work where a recruiter would have to go out their workflow, go check Ashby, go check the ATS, and then manually paste it over.
Yeah, really good. Tristan, staying on this for a while, did you, on those like little projects, was it a case that they emerged as a problem to fix? So in other words, the work went to you guys to fix it because basically it was obvious, or was it more of a strategy? So I'm guessing that some Recops work is a mix of strategy, and alongside you might have a long-term plan, but you might just encounter sort of things that actually we just got to fix this problem here.
Yeah. It's very much hybrid. It was more of a seeing, I've got this overview of all these TA channels in the business, and I was kind of going, for talent acquisition to keep having to update in Slack, right, constantly, like this is such a waste of time. What's an easy fix for this? Let's just let's build a bot that can automatically paste in them each week. The same for mission outcome competency, because the problem is if all these different roles have different templates being used, then it's just a mess, it's chaos. So we needed to create a real structure that people can get on board. I think a huge part of it, and I'm saying this, of course, with my previous career, is education, right? Bringing people on board and getting them to use these tools too.
Yeah, really good. You've actually put us on track with this AI angle because you've talked about building stuff. Tell us a bit about this. Like, I take it there's some people that with a technical mindset in the Recops team that is very fluent or comfortable with AI, and I guess they're DIYing a few products here.
Yeah. For me, like I've always been like a moth to a flame, attracted to the shiny new tool and tech tool. And do I have all the time in the world to work on it and connect databases? No. So I had a lot of kind of, I wouldn't say half finished, but maybe not so shiny, kind of lovable projects that I'd kind of done, but wasn't quite ready to see the light of day with hiring managers. And then we were looking for somebody for Recops who deeply understood talent acquisition and people, but also understood AI and databases and tech. And so we actually found a fantastic person in the business who's really, force multiplied the team, who was a talent acquisition, was a recruiter for a few years, and then saw the way the market was going and went off and studied for 2 years with AI and dev. And then we brought them into the business, and they're now taking all that understanding of, this vertical, and then being able to connect what they've really enjoyed learning about the last couple of years. And so, from connecting systems like our ATS and our HRIS, creating these as much automation that allows us to scale to 250, 500 people as much as possible. Automation of surveys like the gift card creation I spoke about as well. Yeah, I hope that answers it.
Yeah, very, very good. It leads us directly to this. Let's get to the point of AI, acceleration and Recops being key to that. What are your thoughts on this, Jeremy? Do you think this is the driver that helps it happen? I mean, have you analyzed why TA teams have been slow in adopting AI? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think my thoughts and my feelings around AI adoption on TA teams really boils down to a much broader thing that actually Will talked about, which is the health of the business. I think that if a TA team is sitting there pushing the AI button and everybody at the company is sitting back and saying, we're not ready for this yet, you're just going to hit friction on friction on friction. And so I think that it will certainly be a function that will help TA adopt AI. It will certainly be a function if you are at a company that is thinking about their talent and how the talent evolves, and basically talent being the number one element of the company. Then yes, Recops teams will help that. But it really does start with, how are we approaching this to begin with? Are we thinking about it from a co-pilot or replacement? Are we thinking about it from, just ultimately what's our end goal here? And that, I think, is a much more leading indicator than whether or not your Recops team is going to be the driver for your AI.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. Will, what are your thoughts on sort of AI and Recops, that relationship, and how it pertains to is it an accelerant? Can it be?
Yeah, I think so. We've seen recruiters, recruiting coordinators, sourcers, they all just have more on their plate, right? We see it in the surveys, the rec loads per the number of scheduling requests per coordinator. So everybody's busier. They do not have, in general, the time to take time out of their day to say, I'm now going to focus on some proactive task. And it is through just qualitative and quantitative feedback from your team on where they're struggling that the Recops person can then go investigate. Is it a process issue? Is it a tool thing? Is it something that we can build to enable this? And you have to find your early adopters and champions, because everybody's always resistant to change. That's a human trait. And so going out to your team and saying, this is now for everybody, can bring friction. So you do have to find your early adopters and champions, find the ones who are really struggling with this and help them see a better way, and then work on iterative improvements. It's where I've found success, and then you can roll it out to the team with the help of your recruiting leaders.
I just want to echo Will's words there 100%. I think it needs, you can have talent acquisition partner run this and set this up, but you need somebody who really, really owns it to make sure that it's embedded in the workflow and keeps it consistent, making sure everyone's using it, making sure it's the data clarity is there. And it made a huge difference for us as well.
So on a tactical point, as a leader, and I think about my team, And if we're saying that like the role of the in-office recruiter is going to be obsolete, or it's just going to be reduced, how do I set my team up? If one of my team members wants to go into Recops, how should I be creating their individual development plan to get them there? Like, what are the key knowledge or skill sets that I should be getting my team to learn if that's the route they want to go?
So I think that and I get this question a lot of recruiters reach out to me a lot and say, hey, you're in Recops, you're very vocal about Recops. I want to get into Recops. And I ask them the question like, well, why do you want to get into Recops? And the consistent thing that I hear in that is, well, I'm worried about my job, and I'm thinking that if I'm in Recops and I'm closer to the tech, that I'll have some job security there because, I'm closer to the data, I'm closer to the tech. And the thing that I hate to use the baseball terminology thing, but RecOps has 5 pillars to it where you can kind of slot your skills, and you can kind of say to somebody, hey, evaluate yourself in this and see where you want to add more. But it's very, very rare that you're going to find somebody who is good at every single one of them at an extremely high level. And so you're going to have people on your team who might be really good tactically. They might be really good at like launching a program. They might be okay at tracking their data. They might be okay at systems. And I think one of the key things to have in the conversation there is, how are you not using one skill to mask a deficiency in another skill, but actually being self-aware enough to say like, look, I don't know enough about data to be as effective as I could be. Here are the opportunities. Here are the people within the company you could talk to. Here are the people outside of the company that you can talk to get really good at the things that you're doing. And I mean, I'll just say this, like, I recognize where I'm deficient, and that's how I've had conversations with folks like Will, because Will's talked about certain things that I know I'm not the best at. And I think the natural thing that is key in all recruiting operations roles is you have to be curious. And you have to want to improve. And then that could be incremental improvements. That could be huge things, but you can't just sort of go in there and keep thinking everything has to be a home run. Everything has to be, punches over the top. You have to make small improvements there. And then again, just have be open to saying in the room, like, hey, I don't know enough about this to be effective. And I'm owning that, and I'm taking, accountability for that, but I can get better. And it's that can mindset.
Fantastic stuff. Jeremy, I've got to agree with Bill Mussman on the comments there. What are the 5 RecOps skills? Can you wrap it out to us, man?
Operations. That's your change management. That's your systems. That's sometimes your management of your coordination team, even doing the coordination yourself. Your programs and initiatives. That's your referral programs, your early career programs, the programmatic side, hiring, like your enablement programs, everything that you've got where you're training people, data and analytics, because you're close to the systems. You have to understand, what are you doing? How is what I'm connecting over here going to impact over there? Strategy. I often say that strategy is really just your ability to talk about what you can do tactically at a high enough level for the business. And then the 5th one depends on who you talk to, but usually the 5th one is around employer brand. And that is because as you look at like what recruiting operations does across the board, all of this factors into what are candidates seeing, what are your internal teams seeing, what is that? And oftentimes you're the person in all of those conversations. Like at the head of being a RecOps person, you are the chief of staff almost to the head of TA. So you are in all the meetings, you understand where the through line is, and you're there to sort of make sure that everything stays connected. And that shows up in employer brand. Doesn't mean you have to be doing all of those things, but you do want to sort of say all of that. And Monica, I did say enablement and change management. That falls under operations, and it can also fall underneath programs, depending on the structure of your company, depending on the size of your company.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there a 6th element of this, Jeremy? Like, for instance, does RecOps have a policing function? And I know everyone's going to say, of course not. But at the same time, let's say you've rolled out a program, you've got like, I don't know, Gita there, just freewheeling it. And you like Gita, you want to keep her in the business, but she's freewheeling it. So is your role also to come in and say, okay,
I would say a sixth sense, not a policing function. The only time that you should call the cops is when you see Tupac. So that is a early 90s reference.
Very good. No, but you know what? There are like, even in the enterprise, there's like these utilization people, isn't there? Like, there's like software utilization folks, and I wonder whether I think it's a different job to Recops, but there's some overlap in the sense that their job is to just investigate why is the usage of this tool we've spent tens of millions on so low. They figure that out, and then they try and fix it, and then they go to people and say, you got to use this tool. So I don't know. There's some overlap there, isn't there, with some element of Recops work, I guess.
Sure, and that could also fall underneath your operations pillar as well. It just depends. Like these pillars are loose pillars. You can define them for yourself. It's just centralizing ideas can sometimes be, what you got to do.
Yeah. How do we recruit for a Recops person? We'll do see if you had sort of someone coming in. I mean, would you look for prior experience, for instance? Is that a cheat code to say, okay, this person's done this? I guess that's the easiest thing, but it's fairly new function, so that you're going to get a lot of people turning up that don't have the job title, the experience. Maybe you're going to have to go with, the attributes a little bit and the attitude. So how do you, what are the signals on CV? Is it possible to see on CV, or do you have to get to interview? And if you have to do interview, what sort of things do you ask to get those signals out?
Ooh, yeah, this sort of ties into what Gita was asking around how do people move into this space. So I don't think you have to come from a Recops. I certainly didn't, but I had the recruiting and sourcing experience. I think it's important that in Recops, you question a lot and you have natural curiosity on how things could be better. If you say, hey, we do it at this company and this is the way we do it, and I never step outside the box, I never experiment, never try things. I don't know. That's probably one of the pillars in Jeremy's thing from a Recops perspective that I love. I love breaking things down, thinking from first principles, and developing a strategy to hire better. So if it's a recruiter, and this goes to Gita's point, find opportunities to improve your own process. You don't have to impact the entire team, but challenge how you're doing things, work with hiring managers to make things better. And then once that happens, then you can share that with the team. Then you can get early adopters throughout the team, and then you can push process. So those are ways you can influence Recops. Those are things that I would look for in Recops, depending on what we needed or what skill set we needed to bring into the team. If it was, duplicating myself, I don't know, let me think about questions I could ask. I would definitely want to ask where they've challenged and questioned assumptions, what processes they've fixed, and how they view what the role of recruiting operations is.
Yeah, very, very good. There is a theory that recruitment operations will expand with the advent of AI, meaning AI is going to eat more of the sourcing effort. It's going to sort of maybe eliminate the coordination side of coordinating interviews. It's already like blasted out interview transcriptions and stuff like this. Tristan, you're talking about sort of using AI in your example. On the requirements capture side. So lots of areas of recruitment seems to be absorbed into AI. Recops, there's a theory that Recops increases as a result of this, because then the human focus is going to be on this process improvement and process efficiency. Do you reckon that's going to be the case? And if so, what does the future shape of a TA function look like? Let's fast forward like 2 years down the track. Like, how many Recops people versus how many recruiters? Like, what's the ratios do you think we're going to get to here?
That is a tough answer, because it really depends on the type of business, right? On the type of company and the talent acquisition org design. I certainly think for Recops, I think you certainly need one person when you start to get about five to six talent acquisition partners. Someone to be able to take hold of all those tools that they're utilizing and connect them together. Do I know when we need to increase that? No, not at this point. I can't foresee that.
Yeah. Your thoughts on this, Will?
I don't know. Maybe this is like an ego pride thing, but I think adding a ton of Recops people means I'm failing. if we have the tools there, it's like, why do we need to scale this team? If we can schedule without humans in the loop, then let's do it. We don't need to throw bodies at this problem. So there's a little bit of a challenge, and the technology is not always perfect. So that's one viewpoint, but I don't have a ratio. I think I do have a strong opinion that I think more rec ops leaders now are going to become the future heads of TA. And I think, if you have this experience in recruiting, sourcing, and operations, and you can lead a function, I think there's a strong future for us.
Yeah, I love it. Will, you want to be the master controller inside? I get it. I'd be the same. I wouldn't want anybody else in the room. That's good stuff. Jeremy, go.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to build on kind of what Tristan and what Will said too here, which is I think that when you start to see recruiting operations folks take over TA teams, and I've been there and I've done that, you're going to start to see sort of it's going to come back, because the heads of TA largely had done a lot of the rec ops work until the rec ops work and the tools got very sophisticated in a way that they needed to have people specialize. And there are still heads of TA who are out there who are very committed to understanding how the tools work and have a very operationally systematized mindset, because rec ops is not just operations mindset, it's systems mindset, and it's thinking like that. Somebody that comes to mind immediately that around that would be Dan Grayson. And so, but to build on all of that, I think exactly to what Will said, your rec ops team, if your rec ops team is growing, because there might be some inefficiencies there. I think to Tristan's point, we've sort of seen something kind of go, and there's a chart that I have that I can share later where you had one RC to every 5 recruiters. You might sort of start to see one, like every TA team of 10 have one rec ops person. Really, again, boils down to the skills and the talents and the tools that you have available. And certainly as AI expands and our opportunities to use AI expand and the technology that we know expands, we might see smaller teams of recruiting operations people, that we might see them again more dispersed, because people are thinking about the problem differently.
Yeah, really good. There's 2 things, commentary on the chat I want to sort of bring in. Vanessa says, people from sourcing mindset, the sourcing background actually maybe ideally suited to rec ops. I guess in terms of the investigative mindset, they're typically a little bit more technical and so on. I know, Chloe, that was your journey, wasn't it? So perhaps that's a direction of travel for some people in the sourcing community. And a question really from Bill, really interesting. Do you see operations people from another domain porting over? Like, how important is that recruitment experience? Could a sales enablement person do this job? Could a marketing ops person do this job, or is it better that the person has, would you, if you could choose, marketing ops, no domain experience, or domain experienced recruiter with the mindset, which is a better option for us? Is your first hire for rec ops? Tristan, your thoughts on that?
I think it's 6.5 a dozen. Right. I think, of course, it's great to have that kind of background in recruiting, but equally, if I have 2 candidates in front of me from different areas, I'm going to be more inclined to go for one who has a real, genuine curiosity and wants to own things outside their area, and that's what matters more to me.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very good. Will, your thoughts on this? Domain expertise? Yes, no. Like, how important would you say?
I'd skew domain expertise. I'd rather have somebody that's worked within the recruiting function than just a regular ops person, but I don't have experience hiring somebody outside of the recruiting function for ops.
Yeah, fair play. Jeremy, your thoughts?
I hate to be the middle person, but I'm going to stand in the middle of this. Like traits and skills and what does the team need? Because if you're a good leader, you can train the recruiting side. But you can't teach curiosity. And so it just depends on your org and it depends on what you're trying to do. And look, if somebody is saying you're going to get a rec ops person or you're not going to get a rec ops person, and I can co-opt another resource, I'm going to get as crafty and MacGyver as I possibly can.
I love this. You can't teach curiosity, so we've got to find a way to source for it, like that mentality, that attitude. I think most people could probably get it from an interview, but I'd love to find a more efficient way. Maybe it's impossible, I guess, but is there a way where you could surface up in a curious mindset without committing to like tons of face-to-face interviews? I'm not sure whether that's possible, but yeah, something to think about. Okay, Guillaume has mentioned and insisted that there should be a Recops event, dedicated event that currently doesn't exist. Ashby, of course, our sponsors do have a Recops track, don't they? Will, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, because I think Ashby 1 is happening. When is it happening?
Ashby 1, there's one in San Francisco in May, and then one in London in September. And yes, there will certainly be a Recops track, and you know how Recops people feel about Ashby, and Ashby feels about Recops. So yeah, it'll be a fun time.
No, that's fantastic. Great to see leading players like this really evangelize about the function. So I guess there's one place for you to go. Really a challenge to you, Jeremy. You got the Recops Collective. I mean, is there any intent maybe to do a conference or an event or something like this? What's happening?
There has been for 2 years.
Seriously?
And yes, there's the recruiting operations, the Recops conference that is now run by OneRec. That is usually in the fall. But that was a conference that I brought everybody together to do that for the very reason that I was sick and tired of having recruiting leaders who were not doing the Recops work getting on stage and talking about Recops. I wanted a conference that had Recops practitioners talking to other Recops practitioners. And I think one of the things that I will always and forever look at for my career is that, I've really helped, along with folks like Will and Tristan, to bring Recops from a side stage that gets 30 minutes out of every conference to now having a full-blown stage where people can't ignore us anymore. And so that's a conference. And then as well too, Greenhouse has opened for ops this year as well in June. So there are now more and more conferences, and I've heard Gem might even also have one as well. So Recops people, we're getting our space, we're getting our time in the sun, and what we do with it and how we do it and how we invite people in will really make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think a lot of people would see a future in Recops. Again, just leaning a little bit on Guillaume's commentary there, maybe Europe is behind somewhat, unknown in France, not happening in Switzerland. Maybe this is something, an opportunity for education to happen in those places as well. Fantastic stuff.
And I'm working on it.
Yeah,
I'm
get
working
yourself
on trying
over.
to see what I can do for people.
Get yourself over here, guys. This would be great to do it. Okay, listen, I think we're coming to the end of the show. Gita's got to bounce. She's got better things to do. Thank you so much, Gita. But I think everyone has got to bounce because we're coming to time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Tristan, thanks for joining over from Berlin. Will, great to see you. Thanks for coming onto the show. And Jeremy, thanks for getting up so early and giving us your wisdom from California, man. Brilliant stuff. Okay, folks, that's it. See you later. We will be back, of course, next week. We are going to be talking. We've got a massive show, actually. We've got about 500 people registered for this show. Would you believe the next one? This is about the 6 AI frameworks to implement to basically implement AI in TA. This was inspired by my good friend Søren Winter, who wrote a brilliant blog post about this. But we're going to go through a really educational show next week. 6 kind of industry known frameworks as to how human beings can operate and interact with AI. We're going to try and explain those and then transpose that into TA and then see what we can learn from it. Already, it's the most registered show of the year. 500 people already. Do register for it. It's on the my channel on Crowdcast. Follow my page on LinkedIn if you want to get it and watch it there. But we will see you next week. Same time, same place, Friday at 2 p.m. GMT. All right, that's it, everyone. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.